Hey, left, right, out. I'm doing this one. We had the Fed raise rates 0.75 point. We knew that was going to happen. So the markets reacted in kind, but we didn't have a flush out. But that's neither here nor there at the moment. I guess I'll mention that the 10 years popped. I think it went 3.7. So we're seeing some interesting moves in the bond market. But let's get into this Russia-Ukraine thing. Like I've said before, I believe the war is pretty much done, and a lot of what the Russians have set out to do has been accomplished, and the West is propagandized. And I'm anti-war. I'm not for or against any side. I'm pro-American. That's what I look at these type of things through the lens of just trying to be objective as possible. But I listened to Putin's speech yesterday, and it appears to me, and I've had this view for a while, maybe not on the nuclear side of things, but their overall objective of securing the Donbass and then annexing or allowing them to vote referendum style to become part of Russia, kind of like Crimea. And then what that does, it necessitates an even more justification for defense of those regions. I think you've seen that in the pullback of the Kharkiv region and those outlying areas, and more of a consolidation of Russian forces in the Donbass region. And now you have this call up. One, it's a call up of Russian reserve forces, but if you listen to the speech, it's also a call up. It's giving those fighters that are in the Donbass region more of a sanctioned Russian, so they're going to get the same benefits and same pay and whatnot as a Russian soldier. Plus, they're raising up the reserve forces to bolster that. And I believe that is in preparation for the referendum vote and anticipation of more violence. What it also did, because he mentioned escalation of forces, he mentioned NATO provocatively bringing up nuclear weapons, and he also has some sophisticated nuclear weapons and is not afraid to use them. And he said it was not a bluff. So I'm just giving you information that the Western media is probably twisting and throwing out there right now. So anyway, this is straight from Putin's mouth, and this is from some of his administrators. This is stuff that they put out. Now, they could be, BS and doing something else behind the scenes. Wouldn't surprise me, but this is just using some logic and reason through. So when they pull back those forces and they're bringing up these other forces to solidify those borders of the Donbass, that effectively, when that referendum passes, they become Russian territories, and therefore that is Russian territorial, that's Russian, that's Russia, and those borders are going to be viewed as homeland of Russia. And what he was saying is that he will escalate the two possible nuclear weapons if those territorial boundaries are they're attacked, by Ukrainian forces. And oh man, I'm getting attacked by here. And I would imagine that it would be more of a tactical nukes at first in regions, and see what the NATO response is, and then possibly that could escalate to an actual nuclear war. But he's setting the conditions for any kind of Western involvement to spark a possible escalation of the war. And I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but here's what is wrong for sure that we know what's going on. Is one, the war itself, but two, the fact that the West and NATO hasn't tried to broker a peace agreement here to end the conflict, and the fact that we were actually fighting a proxy war with Russia by sending all these arms and arms machinery and all this other junk and training soldiers and putting them in there. And I know a lot of our media is not going to say this, but we know. Well, I was there in 2015, but even now we've trained Ukrainian soldiers. There has been reports early on in this that there was actually operatives in there from Western nations on the ground inside Ukraine. But I don't know to the full extent that our intelligence agencies have been over there, or special forces have been training these guys in country, or possibly you can say some of the foreign legions have engaged Russian forces. Some of that stuff we probably won't know because of the broader ramifications of that. But this itself, what was going on right now, is an escalation in a sense. But it's not within. I've told you about this, that they're going to referendum these Donbass regions. It's been pretty well known that this was going to happen. So when it happens, then those are territorial Russian Federation. That's Russia itself, and any kind of attack which we are helping provoke by giving them sophisticated weaponry that's willy-nilly being thrown around. That's God only knows where it's going to end up in the end, where all this money is. But we are enabling the Ukrainians to continue this fight. And whether you agree with disagree with it, this is the as a tactician, as somebody that in the military side of things, I'm not. This analysis isn't a political whatsoever. I'm just saying, okay, this is what's going to happen. The Russians are going to claim this territory once the vote is through, that this is Russian homeland. Once Ukraine starts attacking across those borders, that is going to give justification for the escalation of force, whether that be, even more advanced weaponry, nuclear tactical nukes, nuclear weapons, whatever the case may be. And that in itself, what are we going to see from the NATO side of things? And typically couple that with the natural resource battle that we're having right now, because we're in this proxy war, and a lot of it's being played out on the economic stage, especially natural resources. And if you recall in your history, there has been world wars that have, and certain battles have been sparked by the, or at least, or kindling on the fire or gasoline on the fire, sparked events, i.e. Japan and embargoes of oil and whatnot. So we look at some of these things, and we just got to change the players around a little bit. Like look at Europe, who's being completely cut off from Russian energy resources, which is a significant part of what they had in the past. Look at our own country that can no longer take up that slack, for them anyway, because we're hampering our own ability to create energy. But there's a lot of interesting things. But I just wanted to bring that analysis because I've went and listened to Putin. I listened to some of his people that are over there, and I didn't, because I was hearing what was coming out of the West. And I just wanted to make sure that I was getting the proper information, that I was understanding what Putin was actually saying. And while they're not so far off, I mean, there are some things that are mainstream media kind of propagandize, or they can turn things in. So we wanted to understand the analysis. So from a tactical perspective, we look at it, we understand the ramifications, and now we kind of can see 2 steps ahead here. This is what Putin's planning. These are the lines in the sand. This is what his capabilities are. This is what's going to happen at our current course right now, giving all these weapons and allowing this war to go on and not brokering the peace deal. You know what? If Biden wanted to do something, he could broker a peace deal. This would be his saving grace of his administration, besides the fact that he's laying us in ruins in other regards. But this would be, a good thing, or whoever comes in next, or whatever the case may be. If there is a next, we got a couple years, and who knows what will happen in a couple years. But this is very interesting. So let's keep up to date on that. On the market side of things are getting interesting on our side. Things that might create desperation in other regards to geopolitical risks when you look at our own economic situation. Anyway, peace. Talk to you later.